I recently completed a 14-day sardine fast, and in today's video, I wanted to go over some before and after Dexa scans, blood work, and the results of an arsenic test. I also wanted to share with you my thoughts on using different kinds of sardine recipes during these sardine fasts and or eating other seafood, because I've gotten questions about both of these items on some of my other sardine fasting videos, and I wanted to address them. First off, what is a sardine fast? A sardine fast is a period of time where you only consume sardines. You can eat as many sardines as you want, you just eat them whenever you're hungry, and that is generally self-limiting because sardines have a lot of protein and you fill up pretty quickly. Also, they're sardines, and except for those few crazy people that enjoy them, most people just tolerate them, or at the completely other end of the spectrum, hate them. I personally have experimented with several different lengths of sardine fasts, including 3-day, 4, 7, 10, and now 14 days in length. So this time around, I didn't just eat plain sardines out of the can. I did do that most of the time, but I also threw in a few different sardine recipes. I did this to make it a little less boring, and I also threw in some different fish items, including shrimp, herring, and mackerel. I just recently released a video of those 5 sardine recipes that I came up with, so I'll be sure to link that at the end of this video. These are the sardines that I'm typically eating. I do this Wild Planet and also this Season brand. Both of these I can get at Costco for I think this is $11.99 for 6 and $9.99 for 6, so that's a pretty good deal. But I also tried out some different brands this time around. I did some from Walmart, these different brands here, and then I found some at Whole Foods that were pretty good. I did a can of sardines, a big can, that were in tomato sauce from Walmart. Those were actually pretty tasty. And then of course, I love all of the different brands that I get from World Market. Those are a bit pricier, so I don't include many of those, probably 1 can per day when I'm doing a sardine fast, and then the rest are the cheaper brands. I will link all of the sardine brands in the description below. When I'm doing a sardine fast, I'm typically eating anywhere between 2 to 6 cans of sardines per day. I like to get the ones that are in oil. Of course, I'm always aiming to get ones that are in olive oil, but if I do find some that are in a vegetable seed oil that I really like, I just drain and rinse them. I do that with my Baltic Gold sardines that come in a jar. They are in, I think, rapeseed oil, but they are so delicious. So I just drain and rinse, and that seems to be fine. Of course, you can always go with sardines that are in water as well. Now that we've covered what a sardine fast is and what I ate, let's jump into some data. Let's start with some blood work. I get all of my blood work online at ownyourlabs.com. In 44 out of 50 states in the United States, you can order your own blood work online without a doctor's order. You just go onto ownyourlabs.com and add all of the blood tests that you want to your cart, kind of like you do on Amazon. Then you pay with a credit or debit card, and usually within 1 business day, Own Your Labs will send you the blood work order. You print that out and you bring it to your nearest LabCorp location and get the blood drawn. You don't have to pay anything extra at LabCorp. That is baked into the price on Own Your Labs. Typically, within 2 to 5 business days, you will receive your completed blood test results straight to your email or in your LabCorp portal. It couldn't be simpler. That is not an affiliate code. I don't get anything for that. I just wanted to make sure that if you want to get blood work done, that you are saving the very most money that you can. So be sure to take advantage of that. My fasting glucose after the 14-day sardine fast was 89. I also wanted to touch on my eGFR rate. Your eGFR is a measure of your kidney function. It's basically just how well your kidneys are filtering. And mine was 120. That's awesome. That's the highest I've ever seen it. You want that number to be above 59. It just means that your kidneys are working great. I like to see that number above 100. So 120, I am super happy. Moving into a lipid panel, these are some of the lowest cholesterol numbers I have seen ever on a carnivore diet. My total cholesterol, 203, my triglycerides, 37, my HDL, 77, and my LDL cholesterol, 119. My A1C is a 5.0. My uric acid was a 3.0, so I did not see any elevations in uric acid from eating all of these sardines, which is a common critique of a sardine fast, that it can raise your purines. I did not see any elevations, and 3.0 for uric acid is perfect. And for my fasting insulin, it was a 4.0. I'm aiming to have insulin between 2 and 6, so this is right smack dab in the middle. Next up, I'd like to go over an omega check. The omega check blood test measures your omega-6s and your omega-3s. You want to have a really good omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. It's inevitable that you will have some omega-6s in your diet. That's okay. The problem lies when you are not getting enough omega-3s to kind of balance it out. And if you're getting most of your omega-6s from like oxidated sources like vegetable seed oils, ultra-processed foods, really high sugar items, that's not what you want. So that's what the omega check is looking for. Let's go through these numbers and I will tell you exactly what they mean. So first off, the omega check total, that marker is an 8.3. That is excellent. That's a measure of my omega-3s, and you want it to be above a 5.4. So we're looking really good after this 14-day sardine fast. The next important marker is your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, and you want this to be as low as possible. Mine is a 4.8, which is excellent. Next up, we're going to go through the 3 omega-3s that this test measures, which is first EPA at a 2.9, DPA at 1.3, and DHA at 4.1. Finally, let's look at the omega-6 markers that this test measures. First is arachidonic acid at a 14.1, and then linoleic acid at a 23.6. So my omega check looking really good. I've done an omega check before, and after you're eating that many sardines, of course, you're going to have an abundance of omega-3s. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because the next experiment that I'm running is to see just how long the positive effects of eating all those sardines lasts. I just went today to get another omega check about 33 days after I finished this 14-day sardine fast. I want to see how elevated are my omega-3s still after 33 days. And if they are still a bit elevated, I'm going to test again in another 2 weeks and just keep going until I can see when the benefits of consuming that much seafood starts to decline. Very interesting, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. That video will be coming out for you sometime in March. Next up, I wanted to talk about an arsenic test. So I have had so many comments on my videos talking about how eating a lot of sardines can raise your arsenic level. So I wanted to test it this time around. But before I share the results of my arsenic test, I wanted to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Element Electrolytes. Element is an electrolyte brand that has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. I personally use their raw, unflavored packets. I especially love them when I'm traveling. My husband and I were just out in Las Vegas for Dave Feldman's Collaborative Science Conference. It was actually the first conference that I have ever spoken at. It was very fun, and I brought packets along with me, these Element packets, so that I could put them into my water and stay hydrated, especially after traveling and like go. It's good to have some electrolytes with you. Right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. So if you head to the link in the description, it's drinkelement.com/JennyMiddich. That's DRINKLMNT.com/JennyMiddich and get your free sample pack with any order today. If you are following a carnivore diet, I highly recommend their raw unflavored packets, and I also really like their sparkling waters, specifically the black cherry lime and their watermelon sparkling waters. The raw unflavored packets and the sparkling waters are also completely free from maltodextrin, so they're excellent options for the carnivore diet. So let's dive into this arsenic test. Like I said, I've gotten a ton of comments about it. Apparently, some online content creator, I don't know if it was Joe Rogan or someone in that same vein, ate a ton of sardines and then got their arsenic tested and said it was really high. So of course, when I get comments like these on my YouTube channel, I have to test it for myself. I also did some research to try to figure out why this person may have had an elevated arsenic reading from a specific test. So it turns out that there's something called fish arsenic. This is an organic arsenic compound that is found in fish and shellfish. This is also known as arsenobutane or arsenocholene, and I very well may have butchered the pronunciation of those words. Fish arsenic is less harmful than inorganic arsenic, and it is quickly excreted through your urine. The arsenic that we want to be concerned about is inorganic arsenic. This is the most toxic form of arsenic, and it can be found in soil, groundwater, and some foods. It's also a confirmed carcinogen and the main chemical contaminant in drinking water globally. The best way to measure for arsenic toxicity is through a 24-hour urine collection test. What this entails is you collect all of your urine for 24 hours and then you send a sample into a lab and they test it for arsenic. The caveat to this test is you cannot consume any seafood for at least 48 hours before you take it because of fish arsenic. So I think whatever happened to Joe Rogan or whoever else, online took this test and said they had high arsenic, they probably didn't stop eating seafood for at least 48 hours before taking the test, and that's why their levels were high. If you don't wait that 48 hours, the test isn't accurate. But if after not consuming fish for 48 hours, you do this 24-hour urine collection and your arsenic levels are elevated, then you'll know that you had true exposure to inorganic arsenic, and at that point, you should be a bit concerned. But let's take a look at this test. I had to get this test on ultalabtests.com. It cost $110, and it is a Quest diagnostics test. So I ordered it online, and then I took that sheet over to Quest so I could pick up the urine collection bottle. Then I brought that home and did the urine collection. Basically, you wake up first thing in the morning and you pee, and then after that, you start collecting all of your urine until the next day, a full 24 hours. Then you bring in that jug to your local testing facility. For me, it was Quest, and they will pull a sample from it. And usually within about 5 days, you'll get your results back. I have linked this 24-hour arsenic test in the description below so that you can try this for yourself if you would like to. So let's take a look at the results. I got mine back in 5 days, and as you can see, my arsenic levels are totally normal. Came in at 10 micrograms per liter. Arsenic really isn't a concern for this particular test until you reach at least 81 micrograms per liter. So at 10, that's nothing. So, as you can see, even after eating a shit ton of sardines for 14 days straight, my arsenic levels were completely normal. And I know some of you are going to be asking, well, what about the mercury levels? Well, I did a mercury test after a 10-day sardine fast, and I'll put those up on the screen. Those also came back normal. You are not going to have elevated mercury or arsenic levels after eating a bunch of sardines. They are short-lived fish that simply do not have the time to accumulate these toxins and or heavy metals in their body. So I hope this relieves any of your concerns that you've had about eating a bunch of sardines. Most people aren't doing sardine fast. They're eating a few cans a week. You're totally fine eating those. You're not going to increase your arsenic and mercury doing so. And even if you do a crazy 14-day sardine fast like me, you're still not going to have elevated levels. Next up, let's move into my CGM data. I wear the Dexcom 7 paired with the NutriSense app. I'll put a link to NutriSense in the description below. I've tested all of the different continuous glucose monitor apps out there, and honestly, NutriSense is the very best. That's why I've used them for 2.5 years now. I just really like their tables, I like their data, and it's not bogged down by a bunch of extra stuff. Link is in the description for that. My average glucose was 90. My variability was a 12. Variability is just your peaks and valleys in your glucose numbers, and you want that to be nice and tight. You're aiming for 15 or less, and mine was a 12, so that was great. My sleep average was 88, and my morning average was a bit high, 95. I'll talk about why I think my numbers were a bit elevated, more so than usual here in a little bit. Now, as far as my weight, I started on day 1 at 153.8 pounds, and on day 14, I was 149.4 pounds for a total weight loss of 4.4 pounds. Now, I wasn't doing this experiment for weight loss, I was doing this more for the data, but hey, I'll take it. Let's move into my Dexa scan results. We're going to be comparing these results to the Dexa scan that I had, which was after a 14-day carnivore bar fast. I'll link that video right here. My total body fat percentage was down to 33.4 from 34%. My fat mass went down by ½ pound to 50.6. My lean mass went up a little bit from 93.5 to 95.3. And my visceral fat basically stayed the same, 1 pound. I think it was 0.94, 3 weeks before that. So basically stayed the same. I do have some key takeaways from this experiment. The very first one is that I would say that just eating straight sardines just out of the can, doing a fast like that works much better than adding in extra recipes. If we take a look at my fat loss from my 10-day sardine fast, where I just ate sardines out of the can, compared to this 14-day sardine fast where I did some different sardine recipes, including like air-fried sardines. I did some fish cakes, kind of like crab cakes, sardines and eggs, and fried sardines. My fat loss was better when it was just the straight sardines out of of the can. My visceral fat loss was also better when it was just the straight sardines. So at the end of the 10-day sardine fast, I had gone down to half a pound of visceral fat. And during this, my visceral fat didn't really move at all. I also think that if you take a look at my continuous glucose monitor data, you'll see that those numbers are a bit elevated. Let's see, an average of 90. My average is typically in the low 80s. And I think this was because I was adding in more of the recipes and I was also eating a bit later. So doing a sardine fast, you kind of follow your hunger, and I was eating later in the day, and I think that that had an effect. Another key takeaway from this 14-day sardine fast experiment is that eating a ton of sardines is not going to raise your arsenic levels. Fish arsenic and regular arsenic are not the same. I have included a link to that 24-hour urine collection test, the arsenic test, in the description below so you can try this out for yourself. Just remember, if you take this test, you cannot consume any seafood for at least 48 hours, otherwise it will skew your results and you'll waste $110. Some other key takeaways from this experiment are similar to my other takeaways from my shorter sardine fasts, including it's entirely possible to have a bunch of energy and feel really good when you're only consuming sardines. Overall, your blood glucose levels decline and your ketones go up. And sardine fasting does mimic the effects of a water fast while helping you to maintain your lean muscle mass because you're getting enough protein to maintain it. So if you'd like to do some fasting in general, but the idea of a water fast is intimidating to you, try a sardine fast. It is a really good entry-level fast, and you can get a lot of the same effects. On the screen, I'm going to put a link to my sardine recipe video. While I do think that just doing straight canned sardines is best for a sardine fast, if you're just trying to include some more omega-3s in your diet, you can include a few of these recipes here, once or twice a week or something like that, especially if you don't really like sardines. These are going to make them a lot more palatable. And if you're interested in learning more about Dexa scans, continuous glucose monitoring, or blood work, I have a ton more information on all of that stuff in my upcoming book, Complete Carnivore. I have a whole chapter on monitoring your progress that goes into a bunch of optimal functional medicine blood work ranges and where you can get all of these tests done near you. I also have a whole section in that chapter about how you can set up your own N-of-1 experiments on yourself. Complete Carnivore is now available for pre-order, so I put links in the description so you can check it out. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I love hearing from you and your ideas. And if you have any ideas about other things you'd like me to test, let me know there too. I'll see you in the next video.